And can I ask you something? It's not something for you to kind of think about. And I don't even know if it's a question. I don't even know what it is, but some things that you said when you talked about at the beginning about your car models, right? And how that might have influenced your journey towards math, right? And then you talked about the issue with social justice is that we're afraid that the mathematics gets watered down, right? And then you said something about not being successful in school mathematics, right? Or the Eurocentric perspective of mathematics that we kind of live in. And then this idea of rehumanizing math. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to a little bit about this idea of doing math that doesn't look like school math, like playing with model cars. And that is being mathematical and actually should be valued as rigorous mathematics. It's not symbolic, you're not solving for X, but you are solving something, right? You are problems, you are, can you maybe speak to something around that?
You know,
sense.
it's interesting when you know, I really started looking at, you know, this whole idea of ethnomathematics. You know, it's interesting when you look at how mathematics shows up in different cultures. It seems as if, you know, there's a lot more kind of function. Like if you look at, you know, Ron Eglash has done a lot of research on African fractals, and I picked up on a lot of his work. And so he's looked at African villages and the ways that they structure their villages and noticed that they fall along the designs of a fractal. And so you wonder, or if you look at some of the artistic designs, like in the kente cloth or in, you know, the indigenous beading designs. In fact, Ron Eglash has a website around culturally situated design tools. It's csdt.org. And he has all of these applications that are looking at indigenous mathematics in whether it's quilting, you know, Native American beading, African hair braiding, and all these different things. And where the math is taking on some kind of cultural or artistic or, you know, living function. And, you know, I think the math that we do in school gets so separated from any kind of, you know, function that a human being needs to live. It seems like most of the applications that you see in a math class are more military industrial, right? They're like, you know, you're shooting a rocket and its path shows a parabola, as opposed to things that are just more humanistic and focusing on people's everyday lives. And I think if we were to look at math more in that kind of from that kind of a perspective, then that would be a way to humanize it more. I don't know if I answered your question, and it's kind of a rambling response, but, you know, I just think that, you know, like for instance, I look at a lot of the work that Megan Franke is doing now in early childhood education. And a lot of it is around like counting collections, right? Like getting students to count things and doing things that are practical to get them to make those kinds of connections. And, you know, so obviously it's those kinds of experiences. And we know that when mathematics is a lot more hands-on and, you know, physically engaging for students, that it's going to connect more. And so I just think we need to figure out ways to do that more, so that students begin to see the connections between the mathematics and their everyday lived experiences, right? So Again, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Well, I think it definitely adds to what I'm trying to understand, right? So I feel like part of the issue is that I struggle with, or where I get stuck in, is that at the end of the day, I'm still working to get kids ready for this Eurocentric mathematics, right?
Mhm.
And so there's this tension because then that conflicts with other things, right? So kids are dancing, kids are double dutch, jumping double dutch, and they're doing math, and that's enough. Like, drop the mic, it's done, they're doing it. But if I can't some way mathematize it in a symbolic way, it doesn't count, right? So then I struggle, right? I find myself like, how do I speak to that? What do I do about that? And so I'm just trying to collect perspectives and ideas because I'm looking for a solution, right? Or
Yeah.
a way in to begin to dismantle.
Yeah, yeah, and while that is a long-term project, and oh yeah, that's something huge to dismantle this whole. But you're starting to see cracks, right? You're starting to see people rethink grading practices, right? And I think that is kind of a beginning to break through. But I think we've really got to, it's the assessment piece, right? This high stakes standardized testing that we're really going to have to figure out how to get rid of. And you're starting to see some of that as well, right? I mean, you're starting to see pushback from universities on the SAT and things like that. So yeah, it's a long struggle. It's a protracted struggle, as they say.
For sure. It's a process and it takes time.
Yes, it does. But we're having the right conversations and we're starting to spread the word. And like you said, people are starting to look at those things like grading, and it's a start. So thank you again, Kendall. I don't know if anybody else has any questions or thoughts or anything.
Goodness, I didn't even hear your voice this morning.
I just enjoyed listening to you talk and the questions and everything like that. I honestly was just thinking of a conversation I shared with Diana and Karen yesterday with a teacher. We had just shown one of the schools choral counting from Megan Freike's work, and it was a 5th grade class. They watched a video of a 5th grade class doing a choral count of starting at 120 by 120. And I appreciated the teacher's honesty because they shared basically why is this important? When is a kid ever going to need to count by 120? And they were seeing the routine as being about the counting, and rather than the patterns that students are going to see and things like that. But it opened up a doorway. It opened up, like you said, a crack, because we were able to have a conversation about, well, what about the other things we teach in 4th and 5th grade, like standard algorithms and all this stuff that kids can do with a computer? Like, when are they ever going to use the long division algorithm? Like, I've got Alexa or Siri I can ask that information of now. And I'm sure there are applications of understanding the structure of algorithms and other methods and models. But it was a great conversation that kind of, provided an opportunity to create one of those cracks you mentioned, like in the veneer of what mathematics is traditionally thought of. So yeah, choral counting or counting collections does the same thing, and I love both of those routines. So thank you for your time today.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks, Kendall. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care. Have a great weekend.
All right.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.